In 2025 alone, around 400 major documentaries and docu-series dropped worldwide. That's not even mentioning the absolute avalanche of documentary-style content that has been pumped out on YouTube today. We've always watched this style of content with an unwritten contract. We give them our time, and they give us an objective, unbiased truth. Whether it's a deep dive into the cartel, or it's a cozy look at penguins, we're meant to inherently trust the filmmakers. Turns out, I was being quite naive. The deeper you dive into the history of documentary filmmaking, the more you realise that some directors don't care about the truth. They care about the narrative, and they'll happily torch any of their own ethics to get to it. For example, in 1996, Carlton Television
This is Carlton Television from London, part of ITV1.
broadcasts a massive investigation piece on ITV. This was called The Connection. Super quick editing note. All the footage of The Connection has been buried, I'm guessing just due to how controversial it is. They were sued for $2 million, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's all wrapped up in law stuff. All the footage you're going to see now is just unrelated kind of stock footage that applies to what I'm talking about. There is loads and loads and loads of articles down below if you want to read about it for yourself. I will try to put articles on the screen just so that you know it's been verified. There is just no footage to use. It promised an expose to the new drug smuggling route from Colombia straight to the UK. They had everything from intense footage of drug mules swallowing contraband and a very tense interview with the cartel's kingpin in a secret jungle hideout. From a documentary standpoint, it was a masterpiece, except for one tiny detail. It was entirely fabricated. The cartel members were hired actors, and the high-stakes jungle hangout? Today I want to talk about what happens when the people that are capturing our realities decide to make it up.
उल्टा पढ़ाई लिखाई हासिल करने के बाद मेहनत मजदूरी करते हुए शर्म आती है क्योंकि दिमाग की दीवार पर दिल्ली की छाप लग जाती है।
To really understand how deep this rabbit hole goes, I've spent the last few weeks binging every disturbing documentary and true crime piece I can get my hands on. Even watching creators like Mr. Gigi, I feel I've started to know the dark corners of this genre quite well and see it that it gets really bleak. In fact, it was Mr. Gigi's own video that put the next specific film on my radar, a 2011 documentary called Dreams of Life. This film is supposed to be a very respectful look at the life of Joyce Vincent, a woman who met a very extraordinarily tragic and lonely end. In 2003, Joyce died in her London bedsit from unknown causes. She had slowly become isolated from her friends and family, so nobody noticed for over 3 years. Her body sat alone in an empty room with a broadcasting television staring at it. When she was finally discovered, she was surrounded by Christmas presents she had wrapped right before passing away. It's a heartbreaking and haunting story, and honestly, I just told you a lot more facts than the documentary itself cares to. Instead of actually investigating her situation, the filmmakers spend a majority of the runtime interviewing terrible people who clearly barely knew her. We're forced to sit through a parade of random acquaintances droning on about Joyce's private, embarrassing moments. None of this seems to be fact-checked, but the director had zero hesitation building an entire recreation based on purely gossip.
I've got a really kind of special memory of her at the Christmas party, and she wore this most beautiful dress.
She was almost well turned out.
Yeah.
She always turned quite a few heads, I think, didn't she?
She did, yeah.
At that party.
Oh yeah, she did, yeah. Joyce being Joyce, she'd had a couple of drinks and she was determined she was going to have a go at this thing. She had a £400 dress on and off. And she tried to grab the sides, and as she did that, a kind of cleavage of boobs popped out of her dress. And she was trying to hold on to the side of this thing. So she stood there for about 5-10 minutes just laughing her head off. If I was wearing a dress like that, I wouldn't be going on one of them bungee things.
Everything revolved around whoever she went out with or whatever job she did. No lifetime friends as far as I could see.
And it seems to just get worse. Instead of attempting to understand her tragedy, the film seems to spend a bizarre amount of time weirdly sexualizing the deceased woman. Joyce deserved better than a feature-length piece of trashy gossip. She deserved filmmakers who actually cared about the truth. Because you can cover these sort of tragedies respectfully. Look at how the case of AJ Owens was handled in the documentary The Perfect Neighbor. AJ was the mother of 4 who was tragically shot by her neighbor in Florida. But instead of filling the runtime of this documentary with manipulative editing, dramatic music and unverified gossip, The Perfect Neighbor takes a completely different route. There are zero talking head interviews. Instead, they rely entirely on the real footage from the law's perspective, body counts, police audios, and hard evidence. They didn't attempt to manipulate the audience because they understood something that the creators of Dreams of Life didn't. When a story is this heartbreaking, the reality will just speak for itself.
What is the address of the emergency?
I think somebody just got shot. I heard one shot and everybody's screaming, call the police, call the police. And I think somebody got shot. Hey, that boy fell over here.
My neighbor has been screaming at the kids outside, and all of a sudden I heard what to me sounded like a gunshot.
It's the old lady that always calls the cops over here.
Alright, and it looks like we're receiving multiple calls in reference to this also.
911, what is the address?
Somebody got shot. His mom got shot. Hey, is your mom laying in the ground, guys?
But poor filmmaking ethics don't just stop at lazy fact-checking and trashy gossip. Sometimes it crosses the territory of genuinely dystopian. Look at the previously mentioned docuseries The Murder of Gary Bettino, Truth, Lies and Social Media.
Me again, another editing note. I've said the wrong one here. I actually mean American Murder Gary Bettino, not whatever one I said then. There's so many Gary Bettino documentaries, I got it confused.
At several points throughout the entire series, the creators decide to use an AI voice clone of Gabby to read aloud handwritten letters she'd left behind. I'm not gonna lie, this made me feel completely uncomfortable. There is something fundamentally wrong with the manipulating of a deceased woman's voice to comment on her own tragic murder.
We bought a van, a 2012 Ford Transit Connect. We are going to have so much fun designing and building this van together. Even though our plans got pushed back like wedding/baby plans, I'm very happy.
She decided that she wanted to take a road trip with a van to start a van life vlog. She had this drive to have a legit YouTube channel and a lot of followers.
Beyond the blatant disrespect, I can't stop thinking about how those handwritten letters could have been easily edited, or they could have even been completely fabricated to fit in with a narrative, and the victim isn't here to correct it. Instead of providing actual answers, the documentary just fixates on the mystery using tech to play on your emotions. But for me, this is where the conversation gets a little more complicated, because as much as I want to say all bad ethics make bad documentaries, that's just not true. Sometimes a little rule breaking can help get to the truth and see it in the light of day. Take the documentary, The Alabama Solution. This film moved me so much that literal next day I forced my friend to sit down and watch it just so we could discuss it. This doc enters the brutal, terrifying world, exposing the absolute horror of how the Alabama prison solution is run and what it actually feels like to be trapped inside it today. To get footage, the filmmakers had to rely on unvetted, entirely unethical means, specifically smuggling contraband cell phones to inmates. The men who agreed to be interviewed are incredibly brave, and it is not an understatement the impact of their words will have on the fight of the prison reform. But from the filmmaker's perspective, you're asking these men to risk their actual lives just to get a good drop for your documentary. In a system where thousands of men have been murdered behind these bars, putting a camera in front of these inmates is directly putting them in the firing line, even if these inmates themselves refuse to have their faces blurred or hide their voices, as they believed it would keep their humanity. As a director, when does your duty stand in the way of trying to keep them safe for your project? So where does this leave us? We started this journey looking at The Connection, a classic piece of 90s television slop, where a couple of directors decided that a hotel room and some hired actors were totally an acceptable solution for the actual Colombian jungle. We looked at Dreams of Life, which traded a woman's reality for a cheap, unverified gossip, and we looked at the murder of Gary Bettino, crossing a terrifying boundary by using AI to puppet a deceased victim's voice for the sake of emotional manipulation. These aren't just isolated incidences, or a few bad apples, they're a glaring neon warning sign for how fragile the truth can be when there's a large budget. I think the reality of the situation is documentaries have become a business. The streaming era, that business relies on constant hyper-engineered pipeline of shock value cliffhangers and tragedy. When a story doesn't perfectly fit into a neat 3-act structure, it is incredibly easy for a filmmaker to start trimming at the edges. But when when do their ethics get in the way of trying to make it fit? It seems to be common practice now to count on that unspoken contract we spoke about at the beginning. We do all blindly trust that the camera never lies. As we've seen, sometimes the rule breaking is done with the dark exploit of the dead, and other times, like the Alabama solution, is done right in the light, where brave people risk their own actual lives to tell the truth. These sort of grey areas are massive, and navigating it is just another tightrope walk. But the next time you sit down to watch a true crime deep dive or a viral documentary, don't just ask yourself, is the story gripping? Ask yourselves what had been sacrificed to put this on the screen.